Whenever I've covered the spectrum, or indeed whenever the specky is covered in general, the term bedroom coders often gets thrown about. It sounds kind of derisory, but really it isn't. It's merely a fact that quite a lot of specky games were created by young budding coders with little more than a guide on how to program in BASIC and a half-decent idea. And from there the coder submits the idea to a software house who would then, if they liked it, sell it on to Joe and Jane Public. No fancy tools were needed, nor much of a formal education. BASIC was called BASIC for a reason, after all. The doors were wide open, and many an upstart stepped through them, including one Nigel Alderton, a 16-year-old kid who had a game called Chuckie Egg and who pushed it to A&F Software. And what do you know? It was a hit! A pretty big one, selling over 1 million copies and getting ported to a whole load of formats. It's one of the Specky's best loved games, and it's still easy to see why. It's a deceptively straightforward game. You, Mr. Farmer Palmer or whatever, must collect eggs inside one of the most dangerous hen houses ever built. If you're caught by those brooding hens, you'll presumably be pecked to death, and there's a whole load of gaps to avoid by way of many leaps and ladders. Grab those eggs as fast as you can and you're laughing. You'll have those Dairy Quest bastards over your knee in no time. Or, I don't know, maybe old Giles here just wants a great big fuck-off omelette for his breakfast. In any case, Chuckie Egg is, as you can plainly see, simple one-screen arcade fun. But when you put it into context, there wasn't much around like it back in 1983. Sure, Donkey Kong and all that had already happened, but Chuckie Egg was one of the first platform games around on home computers, coming out about the same time as the likes of Miner 2049er and the somewhat similar Loadrunner. The speed is one thing that definitely makes these games stand out. They're fast. Compared to Chuckie Egg, something like Donkey Kong is kind of slow and ponderous, I have to say. Here you can just blitz through levels, just as you would in something a hell of a lot more modern. There's certainly a path you would like to take through every level, although you've always got to watch out for those hens, and the occasional elevator. Sometimes those platforms don't quite appear when you want them to, which can be a right old so-and-so. Even the caged bird up top will have you given the chance, so don't think it's just there for decoration. And the seed that's dotted around is sometimes worth getting if you want to stop the timer for a bit, but it can also stop the hens if they walk over it, so, there's that to consider. There's nothing mindless about Chuckie Egg. The game will always have you thinking on your feet and reacting to whatever challenges you end up facing. It may be something as utterly simple, mechanically speaking, as Hen A's chosen Path B as opposed to Path C, but it still keeps you on your toes. Nostalgia definitely plays a big part with this one. Chuckie Egg is one of the first games that I ever played, and one of the first that I loved. It was and is still quite tough, particularly considering how young I was then, but the addictive nature of it made me want to persevere. It was a budget title to boot, and a fast loader. In the time it took to load up one of those big blundering ocean movie tie-ins, I could have already loaded Chuckie up and played it for like 10 minutes at least. So naturally it got a lot of love back in the day. And it's still great now. It holds up to anything released in the same period. Looks-wise, it isn't really all that far off certain classic arcade titles like Burger Time, if you consider the system that it's on. And if this game had ever made it to an arcade, we would be talking about it in the same revered tones we use for such games from the Golden Age, no doubt about it in my mind. The game was and is a bloody stormer, and you are required by law to play it if you have any love whatsoever for old-school arcade fun. Seriously, it's in the books and everything, serious. As was the case with many a bedroom coder, Chuckie Egg was the first and only game that Nigel Alderton ever created. He came, saw, and then rode off to, well, an office somewhere, presumably. A one-hit wonder, the Joe Dolce of the coding world. And just like Joe Dolce, there's still plenty of people out there willing to call Nigel Alderton and guys like him a legend, including yours truly. Because, I probably wouldn't be doing any of this without Chuckie Egg, honestly. That little yellow sprite and all the little beeps and boops that came out of it set me on this current path to glory that I am on. Shut up, your face. And with that said, it's time to end this quickie bit. Thanks for watching, and wherever you are, whoever you be, have a good one, take care, and I'll see you next time.